Stupid women on paternity court.
Cause I got a phone call, y'all getting married down the street from my house, so I was on my way walking down there to start the marriage to my friend.
You can't talk that fast, then turn to the side. I can't even read your lips. I felt like I was at an auction or something. I was like, what? I won't go into a class on mommy instincts. Mommy instincts aren't about being jealous of your ex moving on with another woman.
This non-negotiable individual has brought her daughter-in-law to paternity court to rub her infidelity in baby mama's face. Sounds brutal, right? Well, it was. Miss Martin had a lot to say about her son's wife, and oh boy, it wasn't good.
You say she entrapped him, but she's giving him money. She's doing this for what? To what end? What does she want
She want a man of her own.
She want a man of her own.
Yes,
Miss
ma'am.
Autry, really? Why would you say that, Miss Autry?
Cause you do, Miss Tramp.
Oh, Your Honor,
Miss
this is what I'm
Autry, come on,
saying.
let's be respectful.
The woman was persistent that baby Skyla wasn't her grandbaby, and she didn't budge from it. Moreover, she came prepared to not let this go easily till she saw the DNA results. Kudos to her.
Where I'm from, they call me Queen DNA. So until I get a DNA test to prove that's my grandbaby, I am not accepting the responsibility for no baby that's not none of mine.
But you was claiming her at first, though, Miss Autry.
All right, hold on. Let me come to you, Miss Martin, because I want to understand this. She says you entrapped her son. Did you do that?
No.
Whoa, these women have no love lost between them. Big Mama didn't believe a word coming out of her mouth and was ready to give her a piece of her mind. That's one scary grandma if the results proved to be so. Just saying.
Were you buying them cars and all these things, giving them money and all of this?
He did the same for me in return.
Okay,
He
so
didn't have no job, so he do the same for in return. He ain't have
did
no
the
job.
same.
He don't even work.
He did the same thing, Miss Autry.
No, he didn't. He don't even have a job.
Yes, he did, Miss
No,
Autry.
he
And
didn't.
You know this.
Well,
you
how
know
he
it.
get the money because he ain't had no
you
job?
know it.
Miss Martin shed light on the nature of the relationship she shared with the plaintiff's son, and unsurprisingly so, these guys are still married. However, the mother-in-law went ballistic on the daughter-in-law. See for yourselves.
That's my husband.
that's your that's your husband.
My husband.
So he's still your husband.
Get married
Yes,
to
ma'am.
you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Cause I got
Okay.
a phone call, y'all getting married down the street from my house, so I was on my way walking down there to start the marriage to my friend. That's why I was going out to go start the wedding.
She tried to stop
When I
the
got
wedding,
dropped
Your
off
Honor.
down
She tried
there,
to stop the
move your
wedding.
way toe cliff so you can get married to him.
Oh, this Bubby was not the woman to be trifled with, for sure. She wanted to stop the wedding of her son, and he didn't invite her, fearing something like this would happen. But that didn't stop the monster-in-law. Nope.
And my friend sent me walking and she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "To stop this wedding." So she gave me a ride and she dropped me out. So I'm up there trying to stop the wedding and they take her
Crazy.
and to another location where they can get married.
Oh, you have to move locations because of Miss Autry?
He's crazy, Your Honor. Yes.
Miss Martin ended up at the hospital, and what she believed was false labor led Miss Autry to believe that her son wasn't the father. But Miss Autry didn't stop there. She was in the hospital, and this was what happened.
What was she doing?
She was acting crazy. She was out in the hospital saying, "That ain't none of my son's baby. That ain't none of my son's baby. You lying. You lying."
Next up, we got to see the hard evidence that the plaintiff had been raving about. The whole thing blew out of proportion as the evidence was analyzed. It got to the point where it was obvious the woman was desperate to prove her claim.
She don't have the toes like my son.
Yes,
His
she
toes
does.
cross.
Yes, she
His big
does.
toe is here, and this toe next
They
to big toe,
overlap.
it crawls over like that. And I have proof, Your Honor, that that is not his baby because her toes don't do that.
Yes, they do,
and she
Your
don't have
Honor.
the thick eyebrows as me and my son and my daughter have.
She's
So
too.
I know
they
that's
haven't
not my
grew
son's
yet.
baby.
I mean, they grew.
All right.
They don't call Miss Autry Queen DNA for nothing. She undeniably wouldn't back down that easily. However, Miss Martin came forward with a witness who ended up being Miss Autry's daughter. She testified for her sister-in-law. Did that convince Miss Autry that she's the grandma? Let's see.
So do you believe this beautiful baby, Skyla, is your niece?
She is my brother baby. I was there when she was born. That's my baby.
And you have a very close bond with her?
Yes, ma'am. Every week.
She love babies.
That's my brother baby.
I mean, if your daughter is bonded with her and your son said that's his daughter, why? What is your problem? That's his daughter. Why? What is your problem?
After the other came into the picture, he also came to the court, and he came with some shocking revelations. It was just like he came and he conquered, but for all the wrong reasons. So,
Mr. Gott, how did you get a notion that this could be your child?
Because we had sex unprotected.
That baby.
Did she ever tell you you are the father?
Once when we was on the phone,
When you were on the phone?
Yes.
What did she say?
she was just telling me like it's a possibility that the baby could be mine.
She could be here. Look at his
I didn't
eyebrows. Look at
tell
her
her that.
eyebrows.
this was one crazy ride. We got to see some interesting interactions with Miss Autry, the DNA queen. However, it was time to reveal the real DNA results.
It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Martin.
I'll take that for 200, Your Honor. I told you.
Miss Livingston was back in the court. These second-timers just don't learn, do they? But this time, she was now demanding that her current boyfriend, Mr. Snyder, accept that her daughter was his. But he wasn't up for that, as already he'd had enough of this paternity drama.
Ms. Livingston, why are today's results so important to your relationship?
It's everything. Everything hangs in the balance. Us being a family, everything. He said he'll go back to Ohio if he's not the father. If the DNA results come back that it's not his.
You going back to Ohio, Mr. Snyder?
Yes, Your Honor. If the child's not mine, why be there for a child that's not mine?
And so the stakes are high.
Clearly, the stakes were high. But let's get to the part about how the defendants found out about the infidelity. It turns out that baby daddy went through the plaintiff's phone and came across a crude message from a random guy. And from that moment, all trust was lost.
Went through her phone and saw a message from a guy.
Really?
Yes.
What did the message say?
He wanted to meet up with her and have sex.
So you see a message, someone propositioning sex to your girlfriend?
And there was no like, I'm with a guy right now. There's like no to it. It was just, I want to have sex. Where you at?
Uh-oh, few other messages are revealed in the court, and this time, the guy submitted the hard evidence of the message to back up his claim. The messages, on the other hand, are, just gross.
You see a message that says, wanted to ask if I could do you doggy style. Oh.
Yep.
And then you see this message after that. What hotel you staying at? Ms. Livingston, I'm staying at the blank inn.
Why are you gonna tell him where exactly you're at?
Mommy claimed that she never went through with that proposition from her ex, but the defendant didn't buy this story. Who would after all they'd been through? You know, when doubt first sets in, there's no going back.
When he asked me if I was alone, I told him no, that my boyfriend would be there.
But there's no boyfriend or girlfriend on the planet Earth that wants to know that their partner's ex is sending them this kind of message.
I told him that he sends me those kind of messages all the time.
Soon after this, you find out
And
Ms.
it's
Livingston
still
is
not
pregnant.
According to Mr. Snyder, he and Miss Livingston got into a fight after learning about the pregnancy, after which his girlfriend disappeared with no clue. However, the plaintiff presented a different version of this story.
I did not break up with him, first of all. I was staying with a friend the night before, and I had lost my phone at that friend's house. She took me back to my apartment after I sat waiting for him because he told me I'll be there. And I'm sitting there in the freezing rain waiting on him. He never shows up. So that friend shows up to take me back to my apartment. I still did not have my phone.
Shockingly, the plaintiff was left in the cold rain stranded while her man never showed up. Brutal, right? Fortunately, she had a friend with her who took her in and broke up with the worst excuse for a boyfriend, and another set of confusion started rolling in.
I didn't even know until the 3 months later when I finally got a phone, and he told me, well, I'm with somebody else now, and I was like, you're cheating on me? And he's like, no, you broke up with me. So I found somebody new.
Even if she sends the text message pretending it's you and he gets it, why is it you don't ever call him?
Because I didn't have a phone until I got back to my mom and she was able to get me. I moved home.
Now, the question was how these guys reconnected after that debacle. Well, the mama contacted him through Facebook. The guy again had physical evidence of that text exchange, which didn't paint the mommy in a good color.
I said, I was like, well, I've cheated on you. You may be the father, you may not. You'll never
I
know.
have evidence on that.
Ms. Livingston says, besides, I slept with someone else, maybe she isn't yours. And you say, figured, and Ms. Livingston says, you will never know, and then you write back, then don't put my blank on that birth certificate. And then Ms. Livingston, you say, I'm not.
After stating that she pulled those stupid tricks out of hurt and anger, as her guy was with someone else now, she further claimed that her mommy instincts kicked in and fueled the hurt more. Judge Lake schooled the woman on real mommy instincts.
I didn't want somebody else trying to play house and play mommy with my baby.
Okay, I won't go into a class on mommy instincts. Mommy instincts aren't about being jealous of your ex moving on with another woman. Mommy instincts are about making sure your child is taken care of and knows their father.
Despite the defendant having doubts, Miss Livingston is convinced he was the father and showed pictures highlighting the resemblance they both share. but we know resemblance isn't considered hard evidence in this court.
She's a little girl, and I wanted a little girl. And
She looks just like him. I'm sorry, but she looks just like him. We have other pictures that show that she looks just like him. She has his ear. He has an ear that has a bent down in there, and it looks like a little elf ear. It's pointed. She's got the same ear on the same side.
it's a baby face.
And she's got the nasally stuff that he's got going on
She
when
can
he
look like
sleeps.
anyone.
Their whole relationship was riding on the paternity results of baby Emma Lynn, and it was time for Judge Lake to open that envelope and present us with the truth.
Mr. Snyder, you are the father. You are the father.
Good. I don't gotta book a ticket tomorrow.
You don't have to book a ticket now?
No, you don't have to.
Sleeping with your own sister-in-law? Just preposterous, ain't it? But wait, there's more, as Mr. Griffin claimed the child he had with the defendant, Miss Richmond. But Miss Richmond refused this, and both were here for some answers regarding this paternity doubt.
How long did this mistake
It lasted, I'd say, about 2 years.
2 years?
About a year. I know a year. I know a year.
This wasn't no
Oh,
mistake,
yeah.
this was a decision.
Exactly.
So for 2 years, you were sleeping with your wife's sister.
Yes.
Regularly?
Yes.
Often. Very often.
Following this disaster, we got to know that the plaintiff had been married for a decade, and Miss Richmond, being young and stupid at the time, gave another name to what they both did behind her sister's and his wife's back. Is it just me, or are you also getting uncomfortable with this?
So you all had known each other for an extended amount of time. Oh, this is all in the family.
All in the family, Your Honor. I was in love, so I thought what I thought was love back in that time. I think that's why I chose to tell him first for anyone else that he was the father. We slept together more unprotected than I did with the others.
30 years forward, Mr. Griffin still believed Tykeia to be his daughter, while the defendant admitted telling him of her pregnancy at that time. However, exclusivity meant nothing to the both of them.
So you were admitting that during the window of conception, you were also sleeping with 2 other men.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you tell those men you were pregnant as
No,
well?
Your Honor, no.
Why did you only choose to tell Mr. Griffin?
Mr. Griffin was the one I was with mostly all the time. Mostly.
Right.
So that's
and so
why
you know it only
assumed
takes
was
once
his.
though, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You would think they'd be honest moving forward after the plaintiff got Miss Richmond pregnant. Nope. They both went their separate ways and never heard from each other again until now.
So Mr. Griffin, how did you tell your wife that you got her sister pregnant?
I didn't because I was too embarrassed to tell her, I did that.
So Tykeia, I want to hear from you because I want to understand at what point did you find out?
Like the first time someone brought his name up was like, my mom never brought his name up.
In all this ruckus created by these two, it was Tykeia who suffered the consequences. She grew up without a father, and Mommy Dearest never even mentioned his name. But Miss Tykeia did end up hearing about the baby daddy.
I got a message on MySpace. Do you remember MySpace?
I sure do. I wasn't on it, but I remember
So
it.
I got a message on MySpace from Lakeisha. Just a long little thing saying, I think you're my sister. And I'm just like who is this girl? So
And wait, so when you first got the message, were you overwhelmed with emotion or did you feel like it was a prank?
Sister Lakeisha ended up in the mix. She told how she got to know that she had another sister named Tykeia. However, she also revealed she had heard of her from someone in the past before.
And I see some mail from Jackson County Child Support, and I began to look at it, and I've seen her name, Tykeia's name.
Had you ever been told about Tykeia?
Yes.
Who told you about her?
My mother. She just kind of mentioned that we had another sister, but I didn't know what her name was.
Tykeia's mommy didn't believe the plaintiff to be the father, yet he ended up with child support on the papers. It turns out years ago they had done a paternity test already, but the results just added to the confusion.
Mr. Griffin, do you remember submitting to this DNA testing years
I
ago?
do, and from my knowledge, that I got the paper saying I was the father.
You got the papers and they said that you were the father.
Yes.
So you're saying you got paperwork that says you were the father,
Yeah.
and Ms. Richmond, you got paperwork that says he was not.
Exactly.
According to a young woman looking for her father, there was a record of them taking the paternity test, but there was no record of Mr. Griffin. The plot thickened further as Mr. Griffin remained firm that he took the test.
Yes.
Wow, this is
Well, I
complicated.
called. All I know is I believe the other people better than believe in
Thank
them.
you.
When I called them, they said that they do not have a test.
Thank
They
you.
said that
From him.
we took ours, but he did not show up to take his. That's what they said.
This crazy family drama continued for 30 plus years. I guess it's time to put an end to it, and the only way to do that would be to have a look at the contents of that good old envelope. So, right to it.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Griffin, you are not her father.